Hi guys, welcome back to our little cottage here on the river in the far north of Idaho. So right now we are having a bit of a what we would call false spring here in North Idaho, and we usually end up having about one or two of these before actual spring finally arrives. So last week it was bitterly cold. We had snow. There was a ton of ice on the river, and it was an absolutely beautiful winter wonderland. And this week we are hitting 50 degrees and everything has melted and the sun is out and the ice on the river has melted and the river has risen. And yeah, it just feels like spring has arrived, even though, of course, we are still in wintertime. So it could very well get cold again. And we've even had, like one year we had 4 inches of snow fall on Easter. So we are soaking it in while it lasts and really just enjoying it. So one of the things, though, that I have been finding is that I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed with trying to maintain the homemaking routine that I had made for myself this past fall, like late fall, early winter. And I am kind of starting to realize that when that happens, when I start to feel overwhelmed and that I'm not able to maintain it, then that means I need to adjust it. It's not that I need to necessarily try harder to keep up with that specific routine. It actually just means that I need to adjust. And just like with all seasons of life, right? Seasons of life change. And so for me right now, I realized that I needed to make a few adjustments. And so one of the things that I had to kind of look at and rethink is I have always had this expectation for myself that I'm going to get up early and have quiet time before everybody else wakes up. And that is like almost an expectation. Like that has to be done. I will do it. I'm going to do it. Well, the season of life that I'm in with a now 1-year-old and my husband who also gets up early, and we live in a very small house, and my 1-year-old has been getting up consistently between 5 and 5:30 every single morning. So if I were to actually be able to wake up before everybody else and have that quiet time, I would have to wake up like at 4 a.m. And that is just not possible for me, or at least definitely not something sustainable for me to do. And so I'm having to rethink that expectation of myself, because I was finding that when I was waking up and I was thinking I'm going to have this time and it didn't happen, that it was really causing me to feel pretty flustered and a little bit frustrated every single morning. And so that really was the red flag for me that I need to rethink this and my expectations. And so now my mornings are pretty much, I wake up and have to hit the ground running. And so that's hard for me because I definitely am one who loves to wake up slowly, loves to have a nice quiet house so that I can just kind of get my bearings for the day, but that's not the season that I'm in. So thankfully, with my husband getting up early, he will get my daughter up when she wakes up and get her first bottle and everything like that. And so I will just be able to somewhat slowly get out of bed. But yeah, once I'm up, I'm up. And so what I've started doing is I will put on my workout clothes as soon as I'm up. And I'll usually do a few little tidying up type jobs, like getting her bottles clean if I didn't clean them the night before. Here you saw me sweeping the entryway. I will also wipe down the toilet and the bathroom sink if they need it, and just kind of do some basic tidying up things just to kind of get the morning started. And then, of course, there's thinking about breakfast. And because we're going to go on a walk in a little bit, we need to eat breakfast beforehand. And so I will get us breakfast. And it's usually something very simple and easy to put together. Sometimes for Lucy, it's a banana and some scrambled eggs, and I'll just eat the same thing. Here, though, I am making a sourdough Dutch baby pancake. And you can find the recipe for this over on my blog, homespunannie.com, and I will also have it linked in the description box below. And so this is a really wonderful, quick, easy, nutritious breakfast. If you want something quick and you have a bunch of sourdough starter or discard, what's great about this is you can use starter or discard. You don't have to actually use one or the other. So here my sourdough starter was really active and bubbly, which is totally fine because this actually makes for a little bit more of a fluffier, I would say, Dutch pancake. Now, with the sourdough Dutch babies, they do not do that really dramatic puffing up that you would usually see with a regular Dutch baby pancake. So just keep that in mind. Just because it hasn't puffed up really huge doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. That's just typically what happens with a sourdough Dutch baby pancake. So for my recipe, I just do the starter, some eggs, a little bit of vanilla. We'll do some milk. We'll do a little pinch of salt. And then I also like to put in just about a tablespoon of brown sugar. Not much, but it just adds the tiniest hint of sweetness to this, because a lot of times I like to eat it plain. I don't like having a sweet breakfast. So, and these are actually really good, just plain. And so that's how Lucy and I eat them. And yeah, so you of course can put any kind of toppings that you would like, that you like to put on your Dutch baby pancakes. You can put fruit, you can do powdered sugar, you can do syrup, whatever your heart desires. But anyways, these are so quick and easy to whip up. And so that's why it has become one of my favorite breakfasts to make for us. It's full of protein and it's full of the sourdough goodness. And so, and it's all in one pan, and you just pop it in the oven and it's ready to go. So one of my current favorite things to make for breakfast. And so while the oven is heating up you throw the pan in the oven while the oven's heating up, just for everything to get nice and hot, I will do some more cleanup. So here I am just tidying up the living room, and it really needed a vacuum. And there were just some little things here and there. You know how those little things, you just they get stuck in places, and you know that they need to go to their permanent home, and you just kind of forget that they're there. It's almost like you become blind to the fact that they're sitting there. I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure it's an ADHD thing, but anyway. So there were just some few little things that hadn't gone to their permanent home yet. And so I got those finally put away, and then just did a quick vacuum and got the living room tidied up. And that's what's so great about like the Dutch baby recipe, is that, you can do a quick tidy up of something while the oven and the pan are preheating. And then once the Dutch baby pancake was in the oven cooking, I did a couple more quick little tidy up tasks, one of which was sweeping up the kitchen. And my kitchen is very tiny, so it only takes 2 or 3 minutes to sweep the kitchen. And then I also threw a load of laundry in. And this is something that I'm finding is really helpful for me, is to kind of double up on tasks. So when the oven is preheating, or when there's something cooking in the oven, or even when you're making coffee in the morning, that you can do another task while those things are getting ready. So, a lot of the things that we do in our house, there's a lot of little tasks that really only take between 2 and 5 minutes. And so when we can kind of figure out what those tasks are, it makes it really easy to, when we have those few minutes of waiting, we can quickly just bust out one of those cleaning tasks. And so that's something I have really been trying to get into the habit of doing. I'm not perfect at it yet, but I am definitely getting there. And that has really helped with my morning routine as well. And then once breakfast is ready, we will eat some breakfast and get ready to go on our walk. And this was another change for me in terms of I don't have my coffee until after we go on our morning walk. And so coffee used to be something that I did as soon as I woke up. But I've actually changed that now, and I actually really like it. I actually really like waiting to have my coffee until after I've had breakfast and after I've done some kind of workout. For some reason, I'm actually finding I feel better when I wait to have my coffee that way instead of having it first thing when I wake up. So that's another adjustment I've made that I'm really enjoying. And so my quiet time now happens after we get back from our walk. And right about that time is when Lucy is ready to go down for her first nap. And so that's the perfect time for me to finally have that quiet time. And that's when I'll make my coffee and sit down and read my Bible, pray, journal, and have that little bit of quiet time to myself. So if you're like me and you're finding yourself kind of feeling overwhelmed and flustered when it comes to your current routine and you simply can't maintain it, then I would just encourage you to take a look at it and adjust it. And maybe you just need to adjust one or two things. And maybe also look at some of your expectations and see how you can adjust those as well. With life, seasons change. They come, they go, they ebb, and they flow, right? And so, and not just weather-wise, but just life in general. We have different seasons of life. And so this last fall and winter looked different for me in my season of life than it does right now with my 1-year-old. And so I've had to make some adjustments. And so, I just want to encourage you, if you start to feel overwhelmed and flustered and feel like your routine is just not something that you can sustain or maintain, then adjust it. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means, hey, maybe the seasons have changed and it's time to make a few little adjustments. And this evening for dinner, I am making a skillet chicken with shallots, mushrooms, and mustard cream sauce. I know that is quite the title, but you'll be able to find the full recipe over on my blog, homespunannie.com, and I will also have it linked in the description box below. And this recipe is wonderful because it is a one-pan meal. You can throw it all in your big cast iron skillet. It all cooks in that one pan, which makes cleanup so much easier. And so here I'm just patting down the chicken thighs, and these are bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. And I just really like this recipe with the bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. Now, you could definitely use boneless and skinless, but I think they might stick to the pan a little bit more if they don't have the skin on them, and you'll kind of see why here in a minute, but you could definitely try it. I think, those would absolutely taste delicious. So here I'm just adding some salt and pepper, and then I'm using my large 12-inch cast iron skillet for this. And you're going to want to use a skillet that is oven proof. So if you're not using a cast iron skillet, then you at least have to have a skillet that can go into the oven. And the oven is preheating to 375 degrees. And I put a couple tablespoons of avocado oil into the bottom of the pan and let that warm up over medium heat. And here I'm throwing the chicken in skin side down so that skin can start to get nice and golden brown. And this will take about 7 to 10 minutes. You'll know that it's ready when the skin easily releases from the bottom of the pan and it's a nice golden brown. And yes, I know these tongs were on their last legs, and so I did end up actually throwing those tongs away and pulling out a new set of tongs that I had bought quite a while ago and just hadn't opened them yet. But anyway, I'm also adding a little bit more salt and pepper to the other side of the chicken thighs. And then, as I said, these will just sit and cook for about 10 minutes until they are nice and golden brown. And then they will easily release from the pan, so they won't stick. And you'll be able to flip them over. And then once you flip them over, you're going to pop the whole pan into the oven. And for about 10 to 15 minutes, you'll want to check the chicken thighs with a instant read meat thermometer. And once they read between 160 degrees and 165 degrees, they're ready to be pulled out of the oven. And then I put them onto a paper towel lined baking sheet, and then I will tent them lightly with foil just to keep them nice and warm while I'm cooking up the shallots and the mushrooms. And one thing that I did not show was that I actually poured off some of the grease that was in the pan because there was a lot of it. And so I poured off enough so that there was still maybe a couple tablespoons left in the pan. And I kept that reserved fat off to the side just in case I was going to need to add a little bit more, which I did. Later on, I added maybe a couple more teaspoons, just because the shallots were really starting to stick to the bottom of the pan. But here I am finally dicing up about 3 shallots, and these will get sauteed in the pan until they are translucent and starting to caramelize. And then I am chopping up some mushrooms, or more like slicing up some mushrooms. And I just did the basic cremini mushrooms that you can buy at the grocery store. And I want to say I chopped about maybe 2 cups worth. So there's 2 cups of chopped mushrooms in this. Of course, you can add more or less depending on if you like mushrooms or not, or you can just mix the mushrooms all together and just do the shallots. That works as well. So I just tossed the mushrooms in with the shallots and got those sauteing as well. I also minced up 3 small cloves of garlic. Now you could do 2 larger cloves, and I just did 3 small cloves, or however much garlic you'd prefer. And once the mushrooms and the shallots were ready, then I threw in the garlic and tossed that around for about a minute until the garlic was nice and fragrant. You don't want the garlic to brown, just because it can become pretty bitter if you let it brown. And so just a quick toss until you can really smell the garlic, and then it's ready to go. And to this, I added the Dijon mustard. Now you can, again, use whatever mustard that you would like to use for this. So if you don't like Dijon mustard, you could use a basic mustard, or just pick whatever mustard you like. And of course, mustard can be very strong, so you may have to adjust the amount of mustard that you're adding to this as well. So just keep that in mind. I added about 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. Some people would feel like that's too much. So, 1 to 3 tablespoons of mustard is what I'd recommend, just based on your taste and the type of mustard you're using. And then you're going to add in 1 cup of heavy cream, and then maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and get that mixed together. And I also added some more salt and pepper. And then you're going to take the chicken thighs and nestle them down into the cream sauce that you just made. And then you are going to top this with some fresh parsley, and it's ready to go. And you can pair this with crusty bread, with pasta, with rice, mashed potatoes, whatever you would like. Or if you're doing low carb, you can just eat it as is with your favorite side of low carb veggies. And so this meal is so simple, and it's lovely because it's one pan and it's absolutely delicious. So I hope you'll give it a try. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, share with someone else you think would enjoy it, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.